Hi student, in this video we are going to talk about global warming, and global warming is one of the last subtopic from ecology topic. And I hope by learning this global warming we are not just learning a new knowledge, but also it will give a significant impact in the way we behave and our attitude in the world. So when we talk about global warming, if you go to the internet, there's always a debate like, is it a fact or a hoax? Now, this is a news from CNBC not long time ago. It's February 2017. So one of biggest company for energy CEO in United States claimed that global warming is a hoax, and he said that there are 4,000 scientists behind him that told him so. Or this is NASA. So NASA say global warming or climate change is a fact. Which one of them is right? As a scientist, to answer this question, we better understand the whole story or the complete story. So let's start with the concept of carbon fluxes. Now, you have learned in the previous video that carbon fluxes is basically transfer of carbon from one carbon sink to another, and this happens every day because photosynthesis happens every day. We do our cell respiration every single second. Now, globally in the whole world, carbon fluxes can be estimated. Well, why it is estimated? Because it's hard to measure precisely, okay, for each year or annual data. But this estimation is based on many measurements. So it's not just one trial or two trials, but it is based on many measurements in natural ecosystem and also in mesocosm. So based on the data, one of the examples of the annual data of carbon fluxes, you can see from here that annual carbon fluxes is measured in gigatons or 10 to the power of 9 tons, because it is in 1 year, and we are not just talking in one country, we're talking about the whole world. So as you can see from here, negative means it takes the carbon from the atmosphere as the carbon sink and fix it into the organic materials, while a positive number, I put it as a red, it means that the carbon is being released back to the environment or to the atmosphere and add the concentration of the carbon in the atmosphere. So the carbon fluxes that happens will cause the total carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere changes over time. All right. So, for example, if the combustion of carbon or fossil fuel increases, it means that from time to time, from year to year, the carbon concentration in the atmosphere will increase. Now, the air monitoring stations at various sites around the world measure CO2, methane, and other gases concentration in the atmosphere. One of the example, very famous example, exists in Mauna Loa in Hawaii. Okay, and it is located in the remote volcano area where air is largely free of local influences. So not really, not many traffic or factories around them. So they can get a most average air in that area. Now, accurate measurement gives reliable data for our scientists from these stations, and there are some trends that they have seen from the data they have collected from year to years. There are two types of trend, which is the annual trend and also the across years trend. So the trends are, let's talk about the trend. The first trend that is found from the monitoring stations, there is an annual fluctuation in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. From May to October worldwide, the carbon dioxide drops. So as you can see from here, okay, around here up to here, okay, the carbon dioxide tend to drops, and then it rise again until the next May. Now, why? This is due to northern hemisphere of the Earth during June and September. They have summer, and you know, in summer it means that plants actively do photosynthesis, and this causes the carbon dioxide to decrease because they are fixed by photosynthesis. All right, and northern hemisphere tend to have more land compared to the south hemisphere. Now, and the second trend that they found is from year to year, despite of the fluctuation within a year, from year to year, which is this annual cycle, they also found that after about 50 years they monitor, the carbon dioxide trend over the 50 years, they increase. And it is most likely due to human activities, especially in combusting fossil fuel. So actually, carbon dioxide already exists even before human found fossil fuel and use it for their daily activity. So is it a friend or a foe? The fact is, carbon dioxide naturally exists in the atmosphere and it makes the world a habitable place. Why? Because without it, the average Earth temperature is going to be too cold for us, negative 18 degrees Celsius. The question is how then carbon dioxide can create warmth on Earth's surface? The answer is by giving a greenhouse effect. Now, I want you to know that there's so many misconceptions that happened in the past. I'm not talking about the real greenhouse. I'm talking about the effect of carbon dioxide is similar to the effect of glass in a greenhouse. So carbon dioxide creates a layer that will give warmth to the world that is similar to the way glasses in greenhouse trap heat and make the greenhouse warmer compared to the outside environment. So let me explain how the greenhouse glasses work. So sunlight will penetrate as short wavelength to the greenhouse. They penetrate the glass of the greenhouse. And then it will be hit the ground and the ground will reflect the light back now in longer wave. Longer wave means they have lost some of the energy. Because they are kind of weak, some of them, yes, can escape back to the environment, but some actually get trapped and reflected back to the ground. So as the result, this heat bouncing back and then go to the glass, reflected back, and so on and so forth. As a result, the accumulation of heat inside the greenhouse is getting higher. As a result, the temperature inside the greenhouse is warmer compared to the environment. So, greenhouse effect, now you have learned, is a natural phenomenon. Because without it, the world is going to be too cold. So, this is the greenhouse layer, right? That is made mainly by CO2 and water vapor and small fraction of methane plus an insignificant amount of nitrogen oxide gas. And they act as glass layer in a greenhouse. They become a layer of gas that will let the sunlight to penetrate. This is the sunlight penetrate, all right, as short wavelength because they have high energy. Then the sunlight is absorbed by the earth surface to make it warm, but some is actually reflected back. So as you can see from the other part of the picture, so some are reflected back and can escape the greenhouse layer, greenhouse gases layer, but some are actually reflected. Now, this will make the world getting warmer because the infrared is reflected back a couple of times until at the end it will escape. This will cause the world to be warmer. So what is global warming actually? Now, this greenhouse effect, you know that this is natural phenomenon. But what is global warming? It is for sure not a natural phenomenon. Due to fossil fuel combustion from time to time, the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere has been increasing. This will cause the greenhouse gas layers getting thicker, right? Getting thicker because more and more carbon dioxide accumulated. As a result, the infrared ray is reflected back even more to the earth because now it's harder for the infrared to escape because the carbon dioxide is getting thicker. As a result, as the final result, the temperature of the earth is increasing more than usual. This happens globally because even though only some countries are famous for being carbon footprints countries, but actually the gas will be diffused evenly around the world. So that's why we call it global warming because it happens to the whole world. But some people may say, really? High concentration of carbon dioxide is the main cause of global warming? Well, scientists, please give supporting evidence. Now, let me clarify this to you. There is no experiment that directly show high carbon dioxide causes high temperature on the Earth. So what I'm saying, by saying there is no a direct experiment is like, if you do an experiment in the lab, you can control other factors. You can create or apply the independent variable and measure the dependent variable. We cannot do such thing in the world, right? We cannot do an experiment that control other factors and then emit the carbon dioxide as much as we can and then measure the temperature. It is impossible. But what scientists have is the data of annual carbon concentration and the data of annual temperature even since 800,000 years ago. Well, I'm not going to talk about how the data collection happens. Well, you can search it from the internet, and it is not going to be part of the syllabus anyway. And guess what? The two trends are similar, as you can see in this picture. Well, I cannot find a picture that you can have. You can see in the Andrew Ellett. He has a collection of 800,000 years ago of carbon dioxide and also temperature. But in this picture, you can see since 400,000 years ago. So you can see from here, the blue one is the carbon dioxide, while the red one is the temperature. They are very similar, aren't they? Yes, they are not identical to each other because there are some other factors that affect the Earth's temperature. But this CO2 shows the strongest correlation because the trend is very, very similar. So the question is, then why there are still people who dispute that global warming is caused by human activities in combusting fossil fuel? Why? And as a reflection for TOK, you know that some people say, well, since scientists cannot really show a causality data that it is carbon dioxide that directly give impact to the temperature, it is not certain. So scientists just want to have a precaution, you know. Well, it is just correlation, but let's do a precautionary principle. Better to do a prevention than to cure the world. How to cure the world if the catastrophic has happened? So the question is certainty ever possible in natural science? So that this global warming, those people who stand against global warming can be convinced. Is it even possible for science to be certain? Well, I will give you a clue. Science uses deductive reasoning. I hope you have learned about it in TOK class. Well, anyway, we will talk about the answer of this TOK reflection question and also the question on the top when we go back to the school for discussion.